is a meeting. This is a
Excuse me,
meeting
Chair.
of the Land Use Committee of Community Board number 8. We have a quorum. And at this moment, don't see any public officials, or I really see a major advisor to a public official. Randy Matos, are you there? There you are.
I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening. So here we go. The first item on the agenda is the Public Design Commission proposal concerning the 50th precinct. I see somebody's here from the police department. Am I right?
Yes. Hi, my name is Rocco DeFranco. I'm an architect with NYPD.
Okay.
Good
And
evening, everyone.
Are you from the 50?
No, I'm not. I'm from headquarters, One Police Plaza.
And Carlos, Adrian, I believe you are the architect or with the architects, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. I'm with Kim Woods. She's the space lead architect for this project.
So,
And also Anthony Petrusevich. She works with me as your architect.
Right. So Carlos, Kim, and Anthony, they are our consulting architects
okay. So
for this
then,
project.
am I correct that we can proceed as far as the police department's concerned?
I think so.
Em, you ready to present?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, happy to.
Okay. Let me bring everybody up to date. This item, which I had not expected would stir the interest that it did at the last meeting, involves a design change for the purpose of trying to deal with issues at the 50. One of the problems that came up at the meeting was that the proposed change on the side of the building was one that allowed people to get into trouble with the grate over some sort of a basement-like area, especially people with handicaps. And the question was, what could, should, or was possible to be done to deal with that issue? And the second issue was because the entranceway access is elevated, people wondered whether more could be done to provide ready access through the front door. Does anybody have a recollection of anything else?
Hi, my name is Anthony Petrusevich from the Lero Group. We are the architects of record for this project. I wasn't in the last one, and I apologize for that. The wording, how you announced this project in the beginning, mentioned change. And I just wanted to go on record. I want to go around how to change. The ramp, the sidewalk access path was always there. Recently, what we got hired to do from the NYPD was to take accessibility that was existing and make it in compliant. So this was always there. This was a ramp, an access ramp that was always there.
I stand corrected.
Right. So let me just add to
But
that.
Chuck,
Anthony.
there was a second issue. The second
There's two
issue
issues, the
was,
sidewalk access and the one in the front. Parking has
Right.
always been an issue.
Okay, so this is Rocco DeFranco. I'm the architect with NYPD. I just want to add to what Anthony is saying. So our NYPD's scope is to improve accessibility as it is right now. So right now we have a accessible sidewalk leading from the side of the building into the back of the precinct. So the scope was to improve that areaway to make sure that walkway meets ADA accessibility. So it there was no scope for the front entrance. It was only for the side entrance for accessibility. And that's what Lyra was tasked to do.
I hear what you're saying, but
Okay.
members of the board wanted to go through these other issues. Accessibility is a very broad term. You can access the fourth floor of any building by a long ladder, but that doesn't make it accessible to the general public. And by the way, that is actually what happened in a case, but that's a different story. So what I'd like to do is the following. If you will tell us the answer to two questions, we can then get started. The two questions are, one, tell me about the grate on the side, which is several people commented, would potentially adversely impact people with walkers, wheelchairs, and the like in their attempt to get access to that side door. And secondly, what can be done to provide better access at the front?
So I
So,
can,
go ahead,
sorry.
Kim.
I was gonna say, I can speak to the grate. I'm pulling up the image right now of what is an ADA compliant grate. It's similar to what I showed last time. It's basically where the openings are, they're limited so that there shouldn't be an issue by being able to move over them with a walker and whatnot. So you bear with me while I'm pulling it up. They're designed specifically for this application on the side of the building. Let's see if I can change my sharing, the screen I'm sharing. You share. So it's something along the lines of, hopefully you're seeing what I'm looking at now. Oops. It's one of these or similar sort of grates that we can specify to go on the side of the building. And so that's located here. You can see that darker gray patch. It's here. So it is acceptable by being within an accessible pathway. I'm trying to show you in the plan just so it's a little bit more clear. It's located here. And the grate that is there today, to be fair, is not ADA compliant. So this would be bringing that up to speed.
So what makes it not ADA compliant is the spacing between the grates. So Kim has selected an ADA compliant grate that we're going to replace. So what we're doing is we're replacing the existing items in kind. So we're not adding a ramp, or we're not doing any major alteration to this building. We're taking what's there already, and we're improving it for accessibility.
Are you prepared to represent, or is anybody prepared to represent, that walkers and wheelchairs and other like things are not going to be adversely impacted by the proposed new grade?
I mean,
I'm sorry.
there's,
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm
but
not
I
following
think
the question.
Kim-
Yeah.
that's what Kim just suggested that we are
Yeah.
doing. We are going to put a ADA compliant grate, which you can walk over with a walker or a wheelchair.
Or a wheelchair, right?
And there will be no obstacle posed in the sense that you could fall in between a space or the like?
No,
That's the purpose of us replacing the grate. So currently, as I mentioned before, the spacing of the grate would cause a trip hazard or a cane falling between the spaces, or someone in a wheelchair having a difficult time passing over the grate. So Kim is proposing an ADA compliant grate, so those issues won't happen.
Let me,
if I could just explain the material,
let me
if I could explain the material.
I understand that it is an improvement on what is there now. I just want to get an answer to the question, is somebody with a walker, somebody with a wheelchair, somebody with high heels going to get in trouble with this?
So let me describe, I think I know what you're looking for as far as an answer. So a typical horizontal plates staggered every quarter or half inch apart. And they can cause a trip hazard because something could get jammed and stuck in there. The one, Kim, if you can pull up the other one is not a horizontal plate. Usually you see these grates, they're about an inch thick, sometimes an inch and a quarter, and they have these horizontal at a space, maybe a half inch or a quarter inch apart. Something can jam in there. You can jam something in like a cane or wheel, and somebody can hang their heel on it. The one that we're picking is flat. It's not a horizontal or steel member spaced apart to allow water to penetrate through. This is a flat plate with 1/8 of an inch spaces. See the plate that's up right now? This is a flat plate that you can walk on. Something in between these plates is impossible because it's such a small penetration in the steel. That's the difference between a grate that would cause the issues that you're seeing versus the ones that we're complying with in ADA, and it's the one that we have up right now. A flat plate versus a horizontal staggered plate, if that helps in any way to understand.
Any member of the board or have any questions in that regard? David.
Yes, thank you, Chuck. My tongue-in-cheek comments last time about knocking down the building, starting all over again, notwithstanding. Honestly, if I remember correctly, I think you said the building was built in 1974 and the ADA went into place 32 years ago. With all due respect, I think fixing it so that police officers and staff and possibly defendants can be brought in safely in the back door without doing anything about the front door for the community is an affront to the community. I actually last month, I thought you were going to come back and address that, what to do about the front door. But it doesn't sound like it. And I'm just a little surprised that after, 3 decades after the ADA, you try to address only a fraction of the users of the building with respect to the ADA issues, and completely ignore our constituents, our community.
But aren't we still in item 1? Item 1 is the grade. We're going to move to item 2, right? Right after this.
No, I think what the gentleman's saying, Adrian, is that why are we still not putting a ramp in front of the?
No, that's
facility?
because the gentleman who introduced this meeting said that there are 2 items in the agenda, the grade and the ramp. We're still in item 1.
Right, that's what I thought we're addressing right now. Correct.
We're addressing,
Is that to say you are going to address my concern in the second one?
that's item 2, right?
So
Yes.
the item that you brought up, sir, is it looks to me like you want to see the community have an accessibility ramp in the front. That's what it sounds like you're looking for.
That's what we brought up last month, yes.
Okay, so Lero was hired to take existing conditions and make them compliant. Putting a ramp in front of this facility would be considered a new. That's something that maybe the city would look to hire another architect to do. But in this case, we were hired to fix existing conditions. But I mean, I understand if you can legally put a ramp in front of the building, that would be great. And I understand what you're saying. There's got to be a depth in design and understanding if it can be crossing over to the city sidewalk, causing pedestrians to walk around this ramp, because the DOT requires certain regulations that we aren't hired to look into for this project. Again, we're only looking at existing conditions. Can a ramp go in the front? It's possible, but somebody has to look into that scope.
So are you
I
suggesting,
understand that, but we did make it pretty clear that we were concerned about that issue. I understand that you may have been hired for one issue, but the NYPD is coming to us for a letter of approval or words to that effect. And I don't think that such a letter should be forthcoming if NYPD does not care to make the access to the 50 precinct ADA accessible to all visitors to the building, not just staff.
Right,
Well,
so
let me-
I mean, you use the word not care.
Yeah.
Of course, NYPD cares. I'm not sure why you would even use that term. It's
Because we
quite
asked you a
insulting.
month ago to address
So-
it and come back to us with it.
Right, and we also stated that currently that is not our scope. Our scope was to improve what is there. So, and that's what we are doing.
And we
currently-
understood that a month
currently-
ago.
So
And
very-
what
Currently,
I'm
let me-
trying to get across to you is
right,
you're looking for a
So-
letter of approval or words to that effect for
Well,
this
that's, hold on.
project.
Can I say, so we're not
Hold
looking
hold
for,
on, one at a time, please.
yeah, but we're not looking for a
Let
letter.
me just, let
David,
Anthony,
David, let him finish, please.
well, actually, he interrupted me, but that's okay. Go on.
Sorry, I apologize. We're not looking for a letter of approval. What we're doing is we're just letting the community board know these improvements that are happening to this building because we're improving existing conditions. So when we came in to let the community board know, we have to submit to another agency called the Public Commission to make sure that the materials get approved by the city agencies. So we're just letting you know that we're doing upgrades to the existing conditions. We're not.
And he's letting you know, and the police department know, that there is a public concern on the part of some members of this board. So it's a mutual exchange of information, and perhaps the answer
Right.
to
right.
approve one part on condition that the other part is done.
And by the way, Mr. Petrovich, this agenda item specifically says that you are requesting a letter of no objection. I use the word approval, forgive me. And I believe you want that to present to the PDC, the Public Design Commission. So
Right,
I was
so-
correct.
I'm going to apologize. I'm going to apologize. From the month ago that we first submitted, the original intent was a letter of no objection, but we went back to the public to seek guidance and the guidance to let the community board aware of what's going on. And that was what we originally did a month ago. And we went back to them and said, we have to prove it. So we just want the community board to know, let them know what we're doing, and they agreed to that.
Please repeat that. Your audio went bad for about 3 seconds.
So again, I'm sorry, I apologize.
David, let's hear from Dan, please. Dan?
Hi, Chuck. Thanks. If you guys can just answer, and I'm not taking any position on moving an entrance or not, but for the existing entrance where it is, can you tell me if there's signage alerting the public to where
Of course,
the
yes,
accessible
we-
entrance is and how you guys are working it? And just, I'm sorry, the second question, just so you can answer that in the same time, is I know that back door is normally locked. Is there some sort of buzzer system on the sides of the buildings to alert PD when somebody is there? And it's kind of intertwined if you can answer both questions.
I think Kim can answer that question.
Yeah,
Yes.
Kim, you want to answer that?
So the answer is yes to both of them. So there is definitely signage from the front of the building to show you the accessible path to the secondary accessible entrance. And then there is, I believe it's an intercom that is being installed so that you can signal access from there and someone can come in and assist as need
And
be.
if you can, where is the intercom going to be located, and how big is the signage that's there, and where is the signage located?
Kim's gonna,
I think I can show
With
you
that-
the existing photographs. So this is not at the front entry. There, I don't have those pictures readily accessible, but there are signs showing you along the path. You know, I would assume, but I can confirm the front entrance sign is something similar to this size. This is going around the corner, of course.
Yep.
And then when we're at the entrance, again, you see the sign here, and there should be a, the intercom would be located, I don't know exactly where on here, but it would be located on this wall, on one of these walls to be able to buzz in. I might have it on the drawings. Give me a second.
And that intercom is part of this project?
yes,
That's right. Yep.
yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's it.
Dan, you're done?
I'm done, Chuck. Thank you.
Marty? Marty, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm having trouble with the concept. You keep saying existing conditions. The RFP said deal with existing conditions. isn't the front an existing condition?
Not for ADA compliance. No,
But
this,
in order to
we,
get into the 5-0 from the front entrance, one has to negotiate steps.
Yeah, so I think to take a step back there for a moment, what we're doing is making the existing pathways accessible as it is today. And so the accessible entrance you could see in those images was through that side entrance, and that's what we are updating that. If that makes sense.
Oh, it doesn't make sense.
All right.
is this something I
no.
can just, this is something I just want to, like I said, we're just hired to do existing conditions. Nobody's mentioning anything about tell the city saying, hey, New York City improve itself. If the community feels they want an accessible, right, that's something they can seek and look value into on a different project.
But what
Nobody's
we have to
saying-
say is this is what we are building is accessible and right by code. It is not within the realm of the ADA code as well as the New York City code for accessibility requirements. So
By the
we are
way, there is
technically-
no sign, there is no signage at the front door.
Okay, well, we will make sure we add that. I'm misremembered. I thought there was one on the right side of the door, but we'll check our photographs.
Dan, are you finished? Dan,
Oh, yeah, I only had those two questions. That was it.
just lower your hand, please.
Oh, I'm
Jody,
sorry.
Jody? Do you have your hand up,
Yes.
Jody?
Yes, thank you. So just so I understand, so your sort of scope is specifically this existing ramp. And I haven't been to the precinct a long time, but are the stairs we're talking about at the front entrance, the ones that are once you're inside the building? Is that,
To the ground
what
floor,
the
So
board
to
is
the-
talking about?
once you're inside the, so we're speaking about the front entrance right now. So once you're inside the building, there's approximately six to seven steps to get you to the first floor. So that
Okay.
being said, we probably need about 100 linear feet of ramp to get to that level, which would mean that the whole entryway would have to be lifted up to allow headroom height to make it to that level. So it's physically impossible unless we revamp the whole front of the building.
Okay,
So
I'm-
as Kim
I'm-
is pointing out right now, just to get to those upper level would be about 100 feet of ramp, which would impede on city sidewalk, and the front entrance would have to be redesigned and lifted in order
Right.
to get enough headroom to get to that first.
I
first
understand that
floor.
about the
And-
slope and the required slope, but
Yeah.
since I can't visualize the stairs inside, I do know that at the Botanical Garden, there's a ramp, but then there's other levels, and they have a chair lift. They have a lift. It's a platform lift, and it's self-operated. So is that something that could be done inside? We need to know what, the community would like to know, what should we be asking for? And I understand that, it would be a crazy long ramp to be indoors, but is, from your opinion, from what you've looked at, is adding one of those platform lifts that somebody could roll in the front, roll onto it, and go down to ground level? Does that look like something that's doable?
I mean, I think we would have to study it, but the
Yeah,
first
I
knee-jerk
mean,
reaction that I would say is we do have to also maintain certain clearances for egress for the occupancy of the building. And something like that would take up space in this. If you can see my little hand moving on the screen, it would take up space there. I mean, clearly something to be studied and considered, but
Okay, so that's basically what the community had asked for on the last meeting, was to look at that and see if there was a way to accommodate it. And I understand if you're just looking at your updating ramps and there's not an existing ramp, but it would be nice to have a front door experience. And if we're going to be actually realistically compliant to the spirit of the ADA Act, is not to just give you accessibility, but to give you an equivalent accessibility. And that's very different than when the building was first built. It was just figure out a way to let people get in. And now things have changed a lot, and it's about more like universal design so that anybody can use and have the same access. So would that be within the scope of your current plan to look at that kind of a platform lift for the inside, or is that beyond your scope?
Thank you for the question. It is beyond the scope. So currently for this building to meet ADA compliance and building code compliance, we are going to update the existing side entry in kind and enter the building and make some minor modifications inside the building to make all public spaces accessible, such as enlarging the restrooms. I believe a prisoner's cell is also going to be enlarged. So there's quite a few accessibility upgrades once you are within the building.
So if a person in a wheelchair wants to get into the building to do something perfectly lawful, file a complaint, whatever, how does he or she do that?
Kim?
Sure. So this we keep saying ramp, but really that's a little bit of the incorrect wording. It's really a sidewalk that has been appropriately sloped based on ADA requirements. So you could
Can you zoom in a little bit?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you zoom in a little bit more so it's clearer to visually see?
Oh, sure.
Thank
So
you.
this is the road here. You could certainly come up and access the entrance door here. Or again, this is not a ramp, so there's no hard curb here. You could also arguably access it from any of these points. The asphalt has been pitched appropriately from the graded sidewalk.
Is that door open?
This
Or
door?
is the back door open at all times or during business hours?
The
I can't
back
speak.
door is open at all times for someone to come in to make a complaint. Yes.
So I can walk right up to that door, turn a knob, or just push it and I can go in, right?
You could walk up to that door, press the intercom system, and an officer would come out and let you in.
So it is accessible only with the assistance of a police officer, correct?
To open the door, yes.
Correct. Okay.
Mhm.
Myra, you're on.
Thank you. I've been on the Public Safety Committee for about at least 7 years now. And so I've gone in and out of that building. I have never seen a sign anywhere pointing. I didn't even know there was an accessible entrance to the building, and I've never seen a sign. And I just want to say, I was also under the same misperception as Marty. I thought that you were addressing the staircase or the way the front entrance is configured, not the ostensible ramp, whatever you have in the back. So I really think that is important to be looked at some point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Julie Reyes.
Thanks, Chuck. Just a question about the intercom system. Is it low enough if someone is in a wheelchair and they cannot stand up?
It will be put at ADA height. So it will be determined based on somebody needing accessibility, whether from a wheelchair or whatnot. It's all code prescribed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So let me throw out the following suggestion. Assuming, and if I'm wrong, that there are people or a majority of the board members who feel strongly about the front door access, let me suggest the following: that a vote be taken on the side door, and then a vote taken, or we can combine them, on a second part to the resolution, which is that we formally request the police department and the city of New York to make entry through the front door fully accessible. Any comment on that, Dan? Pardon me, David?
Yes, I think that they should be done together and fully contingent.
Anyone else? Last call. Anyone else? Camelia?
Yes, thank you. I think they should be done both, but not fully contingent, but as separate asks. I mean, we have to be aware of the limitations on these people. They were commissioned to design that part of the building to make something that's currently not accessible, but it's supposed to be accessible, to make it accessible. The main entrance is a true concern also from the point of view of what Jody mentioned. I mean, current legislation makes buildings to have their main entrance fully accessible, not some sort of side entrance. But the two things are separate. Let's help. My view is let's help this part be done, ensure people have accessible exit right now, but then put along with it a very clear ask to either our electeds or part of the capital process or whatever for the main entrance to be also addressed. But these are two separate things, and let's put something in place better than nothing to begin with.
Laura?
I was going to say, I agree that it's separate and that if this is a priority for this board, we should make it a budget item and take it to our electeds and put it down in our requests that we're formulating now for 2024. I think that we can make a strong case and we will get it, but I don't know that I'd hold this hostage. I also feel that when you go to the Public Design Commission, my experience has been that it will be approved based on the fact that they have visited the community board. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Bob?
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I agree with Camelia and Laura that these are two separate projects. We should not make this project contingent on the other one. What I do want to make sure about is that there is proper signage at the front of the building, and also that there is, buzzer, bell, intercom, something, again, at the required ADA height that will make it possible for somebody who is in a wheelchair to be recognized and to be let into the building. But I want to separate the two items, just as I say, as Camelia and Laura said. Thank you.
Rosemary?
Oh, good. I'm not muted. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a little different position. As this comes to us, all issues, you get to the heart of what the issue is. And the heart of the issue here is not paving on the ground. The heart of the issue is accessibility. So simply to include, as we should, the signage at the front should direct people, the et cetera, that is linking the front of the building with the back of the building. We've already linked them if we say we want the signage at the front to be very, very declarative of where one goes. So I see nothing wrong. And indeed, I think the issue is accessibility. And because of that, I view both issues as linked. Thank you.
I guess, David, you're on again.
Yes, thank you. I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed by this because we're having the exact same conversation we had last month. I am of the impression, and Mr. Petrovich, his mic went out, so I couldn't tell, but he didn't explain whether while in our agenda, it says that they are requesting a letter of no objection to go to the PDC. I think we should object to this because we did ask for an approach to deal with the front main entrance, and nothing was done. Nobody even looked to see if there were any signs, nonetheless ensuring that there were signs or a different approach. You know, I feel very strongly about the quality of what we get out of the 5.0, but NYPD in general just seems to be completely ignoring this community in addressing resident accessibility to the building and only focusing on the staff and possibly perpetrator access to the building. I find it very, very disappointing that after a month, really nothing was done on that front, yet they're still looking for, I believe, a letter of no objection.
Marty?
Yes, they've already said they don't need our letter, which I find troubling. Whatever they did behind our backs over the last month, they no longer need our letter. Therefore, I agree and disagree. There should be two resolutions. The second resolution should be, we should go on record as requesting, demanding, being disappointed that when they sent out an RFP to correct existing conditions, they didn't consider the front at all. But the first resolution should be both. If they use our letter at all, it should be a letter of no objection, however, contingent upon the consideration of the front, because whoever reads this letter ought to know that we are disappointed.
Okay, is there anybody else? I see 4 hands up. I'm going to call them out and find out if they still want to speak. Dan, Laura.
No, I lowered it. Sorry.
Yep. So Chuck, just briefly, I think the signage should be changed. If Myra hasn't seen that sign, we should have bigger signs and there should be more signs indicating the public to where the entrance is. In addition, I think it should be included in one resolution, though not contingent upon one another. I think the PDC should understand this concern that we have as they're going through this project. And then just, you know, there was one thing that wasn't out there, and I think we covered it, was that cars are able to drive up to this area for those folks who are in walkers and such. And I don't know if we can ask that question or not, but are cars able to drive up to this entrance for somebody who has accessibility issues?
If I can answer that question quickly, guys. There's a handicap parking lot in the parking lot, and there are cars alongside that door.
Doesn't answer my, if you can clarify, please, somebody who has accessibility issues drive up to this door?
Yes, yes, they can.
Thank you.
This is a driveway, yes, and to this driveway to a parking lot too.
Excellent. I just wanted that representation, and if we can put that into the resolution as well, so that way we're clear and members of the public are clear as well. Those would be my suggestions, Chuck. Thank you.
And can they leave their car there? Or can they only drive and then drive on and somebody else drives on?
For accessibility person, they can park their car because there's room for another car to get by. They can park their car at the door, leave the access to the door, and then they would have to park the car in a parking lot.
Another person would have to park it.
Well, yeah, because it's still an access driveway now.
Okay, just clarifying. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so unless somebody else wishes to be heard, let me state a proposed resolution.
Excuse me, Chuck.
Yes,
Would you like to do a roll call before the vote?
good idea. Would you do that, please?
Absolutely, sure.
Hold on, I'm sorry, can I just interrupt for one quick second? Kim, can you explain this? It seems like the signage is in question. Can you explain the requirements prior to us filing with the New York City Building Department, what the signage requirements are?
So there certainly should be a sign indicating the pathway to the accessible entrance. And if there is not a sign in front, or if it's not big enough, there's certain requirements as far as height, visibility, size of font, all of that. We will have it in our scope of work to upgrade it and ensure that it is meeting all code requirements.
On Google Maps, Google Earth, there are no signs on the front side of the building. Now, that could be dated and changed recently, but I doubt it,
Right.
particularly with what Myra observed.
So Kim will be proposing signage at the front of the building, directing people to the side access. And there will be a sign at the side of the building indicating that this is the accessible route.
All right, let me
And
then.
I'm checking some survey photos I have. Well,
Okay, now let me terminate that part of the discussion and let me state a draft proposed resolution. I have no problem if anyone wishes to change it in any way. It's coming right from the top of my head. Resolved, the Land Use Committee of Community Board number 8, Bronx County makes the following findings and recommendations. 1, that the proposed ADA accessible side door entrance to the 50 precinct is approved, subject to the erection of legible signage in front of the building, stating clearly and in bold lettering where that side entrance is and how to proceed to it. And that the intercom to be installed alongside of that side door be at ADA height and readily accessible and usable 24 hours a day. 2, Community Board 8, resolve that since accessibility is the underlying issue being addressed, it extends as well to the issue of accessibility by the public through the front door of the building, which currently has and requires people to ascend an interior staircase. Therefore, the Land Use Committee calls upon the police department and the city of New York to take such steps as may appear permissible to improve the front door access so as to allow handicapped or otherwise disabled persons ready access through the front door of the 50 precinct. Separate paragraph. Resolved that the side door entrance be of a kind as will allow passengers, handicapped passengers of a motor vehicle to have access through such side door and to the intercom. Finally, Community Board number 8, Land Use Committee respectfully requests that the Budget Committee of Community Board 8 consider adding appropriate funding for these requests. It's all yours, guys. Tear into it. David?
2 things. One, not to be picky, but I don't think it's really a side door. It's a rear door because it's at the back of the building.
Side door to rear door throughout.
That's fine. The other thing is the Budget Committee wouldn't do anything on this. Public Safety should make that request.
Don't you guys do the budget, Kim?
I just corral the the submissions.
All right, public safety, okay. Anybody else? Who is that?
Julie, I would just,
Hi, Julie.
this is Julia. I would just add maybe the health and hospital too with the handicapped people. Wouldn't they be included as well?
Fine. Resolve that this resolution be sent, a copy of this resolution be sent to the Health and Hospitals Committee for its comments. Anything else? Now, Kim, I would ask you this. Does this do violence to any fundamental issue you have?
Excuse me, I don't believe so, but Rocco, do you have any further comments?
No, I don't. Yes.
Okay.
Jody.
Since Kim, thank you, Kim, and your team for entertaining my long list of questions. Can we pick your brain for appropriate budget request language? Is it, I'm a little rusty on some of this. So is it inclusive design principles to provide an equivalent experience to make the front door universally accessible? Is that the language? What language should we use to make this request?
Yeah. Anthony or Adrian, do either of you have something up your sleeve for this piece?
Chuck, if I may,
door.
I think that the public safety should request that the front entrance be made ADA compliant. That would be our request. And also the language that you use in the first paragraph about apparent signage and all that, easily observable signage, that the signage be apparent and ADA compliant, because there are ADA rules about how to send somebody to a different entrance.
Very good. That's accepted as well. Can we make a note of that, please, so that that is incorporated in the resolution when put together, okay?
And Charles, if I may.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Anthony. I was going to say before Anthony didn't get a chance to respond.
So to take the consideration of making the front entrance handicap accessible via ramp or the lift, we have to go through a code compliance, New York City code compliance and DOT code compliance. My experience tells me that DOT only allows a certain amount of, this building's built on the property line. In order for us to put a ramp, as Rob, it's going to be extensively long, and each ramp has a certain amount of footage before you have to make a turn, a platform, and go in the opposite direction. So it would be involved to the New York City building, also the DOT requirements, which can they allow us to put this on their sidewalk? And how much sidewalk clearance will we have left for pedestrians? So that would have to be considered first before you even get put into construction.
We're just going to ask.
So if you keep that up, you're going to work your way back to David's original proposal. Tear the bloody building down.
And the stairs are inside the building. That's the problem. The stairs are not street level. They're inside the building. So that's why I had asked, is there a way to phrase it so that it's understood that it's not, oh, you already have an ADA ramp. It's the inside of the building.
We would have
Folks,
to
let's not get lost in the weeds. We're in the budget requests. It would be a request to make it ADA compliant. Then it would be up to NYPD and architects, et cetera, to figure that out if they choose to. Just because we ask doesn't mean we're going to get it. I assure you.
All right. I think we have beaten this horse to death.
Yeah.
What I would ask David is if you will talk with Tanya as she puts together the draft of this thing so that it includes all of these points. They're all valid. Is there objection to that? Hearing none, that's done.
Tanya, just call me tomorrow, please.
I'm sorry?
Just asking Tanya to call me tomorrow.
We will
I
connect.
need a vote
Thank you.
before you go there.
Yes.
All those in favor of the resolution?
Well, she didn't actually take attendance yet.
I'm sorry, Marty?
Didn't take a roll call yet, attendance.
Oh, I thought you did that. I'm sorry. Anya, go forward.
Let's begin. Charles Murdler,
Yes.
Martin Wolpoff, Marty,
Yes.
Sylvia Alexander,
Yes.
Bob Bender,
Yes.
Nick Fazio,
Yes.
David Gelman,
Present, I thought.
Rosemary Ginty,
Here.
Dan Paternak,
Here.
Tracy Pardo, Julie Reyes,
Julie's here. I see her. She
Julie.
may be muted.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Hi,
I
Julie.
try to show my face. I can't fix this thing. Sorry.
Camelia Tepelis.
Here.
Okay, and Omar Murray. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, can I have a vote? All those in favor of the resolution as amended and subject to cleaning up, please indicate, well, wait a minute, is anybody opposed? Again, anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? I deem the resolution adopted. Okay. Now let me move on to a second. Is that all right, Marty?
Yes.
Okay.
Before you move on, I'm sorry, just to confirm, so we will receive a letter of the resolution and that's where we stand,
You're
correct?
going to get the resolution. That's the letter.
Yes,
not the
exactly, yes. Okay,
Unless you tell us, we've just heard two different versions from the city side. That you don't need a letter, as Mr. P.
no,
said.
I'm not saying because we need the letter, I'm just saying to say that that's the close.
You're going to get a letter, I promise you, that says
Okay.
we enclose here with the resolution
Exactly.
after the board acts on it.
Got it, I see,
On
thank
Tu-
you.
on
Just wanted to
Tuesday.
confirm the process.
Chuck,
Next
Chuck,
Tuesday.
Chuck, may I just ask, when is your deadline at Public Design Commission? When is that date?
Do you have a deadline?
Kim.
Kim?
Anthony, when is the PDC? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Adrian knows it, yes, with Adrian.
Hey, Anthony, I have to double check, but I think it's the 14th of this month.
14th, yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's good. We meet on the 12th, so no problem.
So I have two items that are not on this agenda. They're not going to require a vote. But first, let me take care of one quickly that is on the agenda, the approval of the minutes of the March 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Any corrections or comments?
Yes, I do, Chuck. If somebody else wants to go ahead of me, that's fine, but I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, so number one, I was in attendance.
Okay.
So I'm not listed as being
Tanya.
there.
Tanya,
Okay, and number two, there is a vote and there were two conditions, condition A and condition B. On condition A, it says majority voted in favor. You can ask Marty, you can't say the majority. There have to be, when we vote, we're required by state law to each person who votes has to have their name down there. Even if it's unanimous, their name has to be down there. It's not sufficient to say the majority did it. So those are my two comments. I was in attendance, and condition A says majority vote of the committee, and that's not, that's got to be changed. The names have to go in.
Ms.
Right,
Tep-
Marty?
Yes,
Okay, noted. Thank you, Rosemary.
Ms. Tepelis.
Yes, thank you. Just two small observations. I pointed before in the listing of the land use members on the website, there is at least one member missing. Nick, please add him in. He's doing the work. He's joining every month. And second, an issue that we discussed at the last meeting and the chair accepted regarding the February minutes. And I see it was not actually operated in the February minutes, meaning on the resolution that was concerning the open restaurants, I need to be taken down as a vote in abstention, just as I did in full board. It was a procedural issue that was pointed out that the chair accepted, meaning the resolution was verbal and taken during literally the first 2 minutes of the Zoom meeting without a prior roll call. So I was very surprised to find myself having been listed as in approval, where in fact I was due to
So
attend.
you would like to be recorded as abstaining, right?
Yeah, but I'm referring to the February, yes, and you kindly accepted last
Very
month. Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Tanya,
Noted. Thank you.
all right. Ms. Chantal?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to make a note. I was the resident from Marble Hill who raised concerns about development in Marble Hill at the
Not
last
now.
meeting.
That's not at this point of the meeting, please.
No, it's about the minutes. The minutes don't reflect something you said.
Oh, yes, okay.
You
wanted-
said at the last meeting, you wanted to create a Marble Hill task force, but I don't see that reflected in the minutes.
So
It just
what-
says a resident, the minutes just say a resident raised concerns, but it doesn't say that you.
Okay.
A Marble Hill task
Tanya, do you understand? The minutes for the last meeting should be corrected to reflect that the issue with respect to the Marble Hill property should be stated in terms of a resident rather than, is that right? Is that a resident?
No, it doesn't reflect the fact that you said in response to my concerns, you, Mr. Mordler said, Chair Mordler said that you wanted to create a Marble Hill task force.
Oh. Okay. If you think that ought to go in and the board agrees, that's fine with me. Tanya, make some note, and you and I will talk about that Marble Hill Task Force.
Noted, Chuck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe this is an appropriate point to make at this time. Last week, thanks to Council Member Dinowitz, we, several members of the board, including the chair and myself, met with a Marble Hill resident and former council member from Marble Hill, the new commissioner of DOT, Adonis Rodriguez, who has indicated not only does he know the neighborhood, but he has children who live in Riverdale, and he is here quite frequently. That meeting was had in connection with the roadway cafes and what to do with them. The commissioner asked specifically that the board work with him as he is prepared to work with the board. And that he is going to take a good hard look. He saw the traffic problems. While we were standing there talking, a truck parked alongside one of the roadway cafes, thereby blocking all of the traffic going in one direction. And he could see how people had a problem getting through. He understands it. I appreciate it. This is something that is unique in recent years of a commissioner having interest in this and other communities directly. And I thank the commissioner for it. And that was one of the two items I wanted to call to your attention. All right.
May I ask a question,
Rosemary,
Chuck,
yeah.
on that, because it is a big issue. We've had a hearing on this, we've had a resolution, we've taken a position at the committee and at the board. Subsequent to that, there were two items that went before the city council, and you, thank you very much, said those two items should be dispersed to members to look at. To this date, I still don't know where our comments looking at those two items go. What committee is going to take care of this? I know Marty had comments. I had a couple, but where do they go?
These are the roadway and sidewalk cafe?
Yes, correct. Remember, there are
So let me
two
tell you-
items.
Let me tell you that issue was raised by me directly with the chairman of the City Council Committee on Traffic Transportation and the person responsible at the council on this issue. I must tell you, she is amazing, knowledgeable, and very sympathetic to the concerns. She is aware of it. What I would suggest we do is either have both of these issues come back to this committee or go to DOT or TNT, whichever the chair wants, but let's get it done and move it forward now. We have a rare opportunity in Councilmember Velasquez.
But I agree. It's wonderful to hear. It's just a matter of what committee. This committee did the original resolution. If it's to go to another committee, we should be aware of that and know where our comments should go. I have
Laura-
my second, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rosie.
My
Laura,
second,
forgive me. Laura, I'd like you to make you as chair to make the decision whether it stays with land use or goes over to TNT, whichever you want. I don't care.
Right, this has been in land use, TNT, and economic development. Three committees have had people from the DOT program come in and explain. So why don't we talk about this at exec?
Okay, by the way, you should know that Nick Fazio was at that meeting with the commissioner and made clear the positions of his committee as well.
Hello, Mr.
Mhm.
This
Right.
is Anthony
So,
from,
so,
hello? I just had a quick question.
And I still have
No,
my second question. Sorry, I
I
had
just
the
wanted
floor.
to,
I'm
I just want to
sorry.
know if I could say goodbye, because do I need this thing?
We will miss you.
I'm sorry. I mean, I want to know everybody's concerns, but I
Bye.
also wanted to say goodbye and good night and thank you to you for your
Good night.
time. Thank you.
Okay, so that's very good. So I know three committees are involved. This is the only committee that had a resolution. If some other committee is to pass a resolution, it would be good to know that so we can discuss it exec. That's great. And whatever the decision is, as Chuck said, but there needs to be a decision. Now, my second question is,
I think she
I read
decided.
that the court threw this out based on the environmental impact statement. Right? That's the newspaper. It is all on hold because the court found the environmental impact statement deficient. So that's kind of the glitch or the stop or the whatever it is. That's a new issue thrown into an already complicated issue. My question is, can somebody in the board office get a copy of the environmental impact statement and the court decision? What was deficient in that? It would be, as we go forward, it'd be good to know, how did the court find the EIS deficient? What should have been, okay, I'm going, you understand
You're
what
right.
I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
Tanya, will you make a note, please, to do the following?
Yes, Chuck, I've made a note to obtain a copy of the environmental impact statement as well as the court decision.
And if
Oh, thank you.
okay, thank you. And make sure when you get them that a copy goes to Nick for the economic, to
Yes.
Bob Fanuzzi for the sanitation portion of it, to land use, and I guess also to Deb Travis for traffic.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, can we move on? All right. The second item is one that is very preliminary. It is done in the interests of disclosure and because I would very much down the road urge a greater amount of participation and cooperation. At the last meeting, I asked three people, or they were Rosemary, Julie Reyes, and I, to get together and start to look at two measures. They are measures which show the beginning of an incredible impact on this community, perhaps one of the most serious impacts in the dozens of years, the decades I have served on this committee. The governor has proposed in her budget the doing away with, limiting, or eliminating the single-family zoning provisions relating to allowing single-family homes to exist as a zoning restriction in various communities. It is quite clear that the two communities in the city of New York that will be most impacted by that, according to what I'm told by people in the legislature, are this community and Jamaica. And that raises issue number one. It's one as to which it's so far advanced, there's not much we can do. The governor's budget has been going through the meat grinder in Albany, and it probably will come out in some form or another within the coming days. The other issue, however, is one that is not at that stage and that we are anticipating and will have to work on. And that is City Planning Commission, or Department of City Planning, is contemplating major zoning changes throughout the city of New York to permit extra housing, to permit taller buildings, wider buildings, different zones, on the theory that that somehow will fill the void in housing. They're dead wrong on what it'll do, but that's a different issue. That's going to happen. And so there are a number of things that in the course of the past few weeks have been done. One, we have met with some of the community groups, such as the Riverdale Nature Preservancy, to get them on board as we start to look at a couple of questions that are integral to this issue. They will be on board. The second issue is, what do we want to do? I'll give you the most controversial, although it sure doesn't sound like it, but it will clearly be the most controversial question you guys are going to have to answer when it is framed, which is, assuming that that it is the public policy of the city of New York that there should be greater height, bulk, and density of buildings. Do we wait until they tell us where they would do that? Where they would provide that zone, texturally or otherwise? Or should we try and get ahead of it? And if so, how? Number two, question is, how do we deal with this issue? We have, if you just take the up the hill portion, which is the target area, I am told, of Department of City Planning, you can divide that easily into essentially three parts. Everything below the Whitehall, for example, could easily be a Spite and Duyvil type district that would be subject to whatever. The middle would go up to roughly 254th, maybe 246th, and the rest would go all the way up to the city line. I'm told that a prime target, a prime ask, will be taller buildings along the Henry Hudson Parkway and Riverdale Avenue, and a rezoning to accommodate that. And so the questions will be, is that a good idea? Is it a bad idea? How do you do it? Understand, rezoning isn't going to shape it. For example, there are large tracts in the Spite and Duyvil area along the Henry Hudson Parkway where there are restrictive covenants that can and have blocked buildings that are multiple dwellings. Understand that Fieldston has its own covenants, which will block it being on that side of the road. And on the other side of the road, there are maybe 2 or 3 vacant lots. So query, does everybody automatically wind up focusing on North Riverdale? These are just some of the questions that are going to be before us if we decide to get ahead of this curve rather than just getting caught up in having to say yes or no, and city planning following its normal course of not really paying a hell of a lot of attention to what we say. So that's the task that I have started to put together with Rosemary, Julie. Apple, will you mute yourself? Thank you. So those are the issues we're starting to look at. I'm going to ask Dan Paternak and Marty Wolpoff to join that group so that we can really, with even a small group, start focusing carefully. There is on this screen of mine, and I'm sure yours, another expert whose brain I intend to pick, and that's Ted, who knows more about housing than any human being I have met to date. And Ted, if you will allow us, and if your commissioner will allow us, I would very much like to be able to call on you to get your views on housing issues in this community. I'll talk to Adolfo if you want, but I would like to get your input also.
Thank you for your thoughts, Chuck, but I guess I'd have to think about that, whether it'd be appropriate.
All right, let's talk about it offline, all right?
Okay.
All right. Ted has served at HPD and predecessor entities and knows more about housing as housing than any person you will ever meet. And so that's the idea. I wanted you folks to know about what's happening. My time frame is we'll start to see bits and pieces, hopefully in the form so that they can be the subject of discussion and debate without necessarily any resolutions, starting no later than June and maybe even in May. And the last part of that is last week, there was a meeting of traffic and transportation focusing on a key issue in any design for this community, especially in North Riverdale, and which focused incidentally on precisely the issues I've just mentioned, which is this road reconfiguration by DOT. I'd like to know what DOT really has in mind. I'd like to know, do they have plans for dealing with? Those questions have been asked and have never really been answered directly by DOT. So I am going to, with your permission, invite the Borough Commissioner of DOT to come to the May meeting and tell us what their plans are insofar as they will directly impact on land use. If you constrict the roadway, as the TNT committee's membership voted would be the impact of the proposal. If you constrict the highways, the backing up of traffic is not only going to spew all sorts of harmful things, but will also delay people and reduce the value of property. So we need to focus on that. So that's the plan. Anybody, any thoughts? Hearing none. Is there any new business? Whoops, there is. One of the other things that we did in the course of the past few weeks is to continue the discussion with the STAG organization concerning the underway construction on Riverdale Avenue. Marty heads that group, that work group, and Marty has a report. Mr. Wolpoff, you're on.
I was hoping you'd forget me.
I'd never forget you.
Let's see, is this it? Yes, the short report would be, we met, we saw, we conquered, but that's not really what happened. So I want to share with each of you just some of the information we have gleaned and really go through this quickly, but keep you informed. The committee was established last month. Chuck set us up as David, me, and Mark Gotthelf. Mark is the president of the condo, which is adjacent to the structure 3745. But in talking with Mark, and our opinion was that since I wanted to keep it to the board members, but I've kept Mark on as a consultant member. He's at all of our meetings, and he is part of what we are doing, which we have found to be very valuable. Our objective, you know that STAG has of right. They can do what they want within the law, within what the Department of Buildings tells them they can do. And so our discussions with them is to be as constructive and helpful as possible, and hopefully maintain their interest in speaking with us. STAG, as you know, has had other buildings in Board 8, and as far as I'm concerned, has not been as open as they've been here. And we hope that that continues. So I say they have upright. We've met twice, so Vice President for STAG, and at our last meeting, Mark Stagg, who was a principal, also attended and was part of our conversation. You ought to know the entire lot mass that they're working on was amassed by Simone for the Montefiore project. And so
Marty,
no-
before you jump, sorry, isn't in number 3, isn't the real estate term as of, right?
Actually, I had that originally, but okay. What happened to you? You get me involved, okay.
Thank you.
The entire,
Someone's calling you from PR. Get your phone. It's on the house phone.
well, someone get the house phone, please. Subject of our conversations, just know that the Simone, when they were doing the project for
Bring
Montefiore,
your cell phone here.
Pardon me, whoever's on 718-884-8394, please mute yourself. Go ahead, Marty. Go ahead, Marty.
the land they are building on, they took over from Simone. Aren't I still on? Are you hearing me?
Yep.
Okay, so we're stuck on this one. The land they are building on was the one entirely that Simone had put together and developed for Montefiore. There was a rumor around and they dispelled it. There is no blasting going to be going on at all. In the back on Oxford Avenue, there was a 3-story, 3-family home that, as originally designed, the project going up would have blocked their side entrance. What STAG is doing is they are setting aside a 5-foot corridor so that those people will still have side access to their building, and STAG will give them a permanent easement. And STAG owns the Greek restaurant abutting the site, and there are no plans for any change. That Greek restaurant will still exist when they are finished. Almost all of the rock has been removed. There'll be a few more weeks. Sorry to report that, which is annoying sound, and the drilling will continue, but then it will cease, and it should be a whole lot quieter, we hope. The work will begin from both the Riverdale and the Oxford Avenue sides. From Riverdale Avenue, they'll begin by constructing 2 floors, and simultaneously, they'll be working from the Oxford Avenue side, where they're going on a 10-foot down excavation, and they will build a ramp, and the ramp will take them to the 2nd floor in the back, which will be a parking structure. There'll be a 2-story parking structure with no internal ramps. You either go in from Riverdale Avenue for 1 floor or from Oxford Avenue for a 2nd floor. Once they have completed the 2 flights, all construction will be coming in from the Oxford Avenue site. They will bring in all their supplies, all their equipment, parking for their employees, the construction workers, and so on. It's a 15-story building. Back to the garage, they're talking about on top, there'll be nothing built on top of the garage. But they are talking about a green space so that kids can play and run around and talking about. We hope that's what they will do. On top of the roof, it will be it'd be a green roof with plantings on it. The limited mechanicals in that there is no big air conditioning unit because each apartment under its windows will have a PTAC unit, which provides for both heating and air conditioning. There is a major, they've talked about this major plan for water runoff in case of great storms. There's a water retention tank that will be built underground, and the water will be held and appropriately discharged into the city system and not direct runoff. They will place a waterproof membrane. Those who've gone by have seen that there are rods on the side of the adjacent building, 3751. And they're going to place a membrane between the two buildings so those rods never rust, and there should be no damage done to the side of 3751. And their work hours, if anyone cares, is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is what their permit says. But some people have noted that they may start at 7, but they generally leave before 6, but that's up to them to do. They have been asked and they've agreed. They're trying to curtail their workers, construction workers parking on Riverdale Avenue. They will stage and schedule waiting vehicles so they're not backed up on the street or surrounding area. They'll be cognizant of construction impact on parking obstructions of the streets. They will attempt to ensure and continuous contact with Riverdale Country to ensure that both Riverdale Country and STAG are both aware, so that students who cross that crosswalk quite often during the course of the day will never be endangered by the construction going on. And we've impressed upon them concern for their neighbors. For our next meeting, which will be
Marty,
in the next couple of weeks.
Before we go forward?
Yeah, well, I'll ask you in a second. Hold on, let me finish.
Okay, okay.
Our next meeting, we're going to review their updated plans, which they don't have yet. And one of the things we're talking about, have been asked about, is what their permitted FAR is and what their actual FAR is. Floor area ratio, which is a calculation which Department of Buildings establishes. So that was in quick order what we have done. And now if I can see who raised their hands, I will try to figure this out.
Marty, that was me.
If I do this. Okay. All right. I'll ask Bob and Chuck if they have anything to add to my comments before calling on the raised hands.
I have one comment, just so you have it. Following the carrot and the stick approach, one of the big problems that we anticipate, some of us anticipate, construction can generate here is blocking traffic on Riverdale Avenue, particularly going down the hill, and blocking traffic coming out of the adjoining condominium. So that I suggested, instead of having the trucks that will come in through the Riverdale Avenue side, parking in front of the building before they go in, that they park across the street in the block, which I believe is 238. I may be wrong.
Yes, and that's what Stag agreed to, what Jay agreed to, and that's why I was trying to explain to Marty, 6B should say the staging will occur on West 238th Street.
And we will try and see if we can temporarily get them the first couple of parking spots on that street, the couple facing the building, so that the trucks can sit there rather than blocking that street as well. If you get the first two, you get the hydrant as well, which makes three, and that should be all that they need for the concrete truck. That depends on their good behavior, however. I just wanted to add that. Other than that, that's exactly what happened.
Anything else, David?
Yes, 6 C or D, I forget, whatever it was. It's not Riverdale Country, it's the Fieldston School.
Well, I was close.
Not really.
Thank you. So who is?
I saw Bob Bender's hand a minute ago.
Yeah, Bob, what
Well,
happened?
yes, it was up, but the raised hand function doesn't seem to work the way I wish it would. And the issue has already been addressed by somebody else. Thank you.
All right, before I call on Constantine, is anybody else on the board who has any questions? Constantine?
Yes, Marty, I appreciate it. And Charles, thank you. One thing, I don't know if you can add one more member to this committee. I know you don't want to make it too many, but my father owns the Oxford Avenue building next to the site. And we were involved in the 2014, very involved in that project as well. So if you can consider that as well, that would be important. One question I have is, they say all the construction equipment will be coming in on the Oxford side. Just a little elaboration on that, Marty. What does that mean? Because obviously the Oxford side, I know Riverdale, we have traffic, but the Oxford side is very narrow and we may have issues. That's the first question. I have a couple more.
Right, they are building 2 floors of parking. The second floor will be coming off of Oxford. During the course of the construction, they will reinforce the second floor ramp so it can sustain massive weight, so that all the vehicles will be off street and will be on that ramp. So so while there'll be access from Oxford, we've been told that there'll be nothing on Oxford, but it will be off street, off site, it'll be on site, off street.
I will be amazed if that is the fact, but that's all right.
Yeah, and okay, so it's off street after it's completed or while the construction is going on?
Well, once the ramp is done, the initial phase is to have the 2 stories on Riverdale Avenue for the building and the parking structures built off of Oxford. Well, the construction will take place off of Oxford, but once the second story is completed, everything, parking for construction workers, heavy machinery, all supplies will be on that ramp. That's what we're told.
Understood. That's why I wanted to be part of this committee. So that's why I have all these questions and inquiries to make. Now, the parking for this building, is it all going to be coming in through Oxford, or is there going to be a garage door on Riverdale Avenue as well?
2 stories, one coming off of Riverdale Avenue, second coming off of Oxford, no ramp in between. So you go in and you go one or the other, whatever they're assigned to. So presumably half of these, I forgot the number, they told me of the spots, roughly 70, I think. So that half the cars coming to the facility would be parking off of Oxford and half would be parking off Riverdale.
Understood. And now, as far as the traffic on Riverdale, has there been a study on that regarding the amount of cars coming in that area to go into this garage, or have we looked at anything? Have they told us anything? Where are we on that?
They have not produced any studies. It's a good question for me to ask.
Yeah, I think that's important because the first project they had, that they filed in 2017, they had done a study, and there were several objections made by the community, which were addressed by the building department. I don't know if this has been addressed. So when we say as of right, I know we had the same issue in 2014. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. You still have to file zoning. We talked about this before, and these are issues we should ask them. Yes, that's fine. You'll do this. Have you done?
I believe the
Yeah, I'm
prime
sorry.
difference is that the Montefiore project was a transient parking. They they planned on having parking valet. But aside from that, this is not transient. This is resident parking, so it shouldn't be as great. But the question of getting a study is an important one, and I'll pass that on.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it. And Marty, how deep are they going to, because I've seen them dig and they're coming, at this point, they're about a few feet away from the backyard of my father's house at 3640 Oxford Avenue. How deep are they going? I know it says 10 feet in your report. How far down on the Oxford side and all the way through? Are they going to have it? Is it going to be contiguous, say 10 feet all the way through to Riverdale Avenue? What have they said about that? How deep are they going to be digging?
I think that's the issue that's in these drawings that we're going to see.
Have they produced the drawings or they haven't produced it yet?
Well, we've seen the original drawings, but they've made lots of changes.
Oh, the original drawings are, basically for the waste paper basket now. These guys have made so many
Well, to be
changes.
sure.
Yeah,
But they made some important changes. There were
Major
abutting
changes, yeah.
terraces with their building and one next door, which made no sense. They've changed that. They moved the gym and the lounge to the second floor, and it's outside over the parking area, green area. They've made lots of changes, but the latest plans were due. They haven't received them yet. We will meet as soon as they get the new plans.
And as far as my
I'll be
request to
happy to
join,
talk to you. I'll be happy to talk to you offside. I'll get back to you about your joining the committee or being part of it. I'll talk to you about, or your father being part of that. But any more questions, please go forward.
yeah, so 15 stories, because I haven't seen any plans filed that they filed, but I would appreciate to be part of it because there's certain questions that need to be asked for them to, obviously we're not going to try to stop him from doing this, but we're trying to at least keep him honest from what I'm seeing. Finally, the rock, I know their engineers did a soil analysis regarding the rock involved. Have you discussed that at all? What type of rock? Are they having difficulty?
Yes.
And part B, I guess part A, they've put monitors on my father's house and also on Mark's house building there. We need daily reports. I know we have monitors and they look at the vibrations, but I think we should ask them if we can, Marty, daily reports. One, okay, this is a report for today. What type of vibration did they see? Was it beyond the level? Because we don't know what they're doing, what's going on. But if we see it, I think that's another option. So A, what type of rock? B, can we get daily reports of their excavation?
I'll pass that on.
As far as the rock?
Yes, I'll pass it on.
Pass it on as well.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know the answer. I'll pass it on.
All right, Marty, that sounds good.
I mean-
Now, do you have my number to reach out to me? Do I reach out to you? Do I have your number?
My
Why don't you call the office and the office will do it rather than doing it over the system. Okay.
I assume we have it from the last time, but please do that. Contact the office with your information and I'll contact you.
All right, I'll leave my information. I appreciate it, Marty. So when are they thinking of ending the construction? 3 weeks, meaning the actual excavation?
Well, they've gone past the halfway point. So we assume that it'll all quiet down very shortly.
And what is this green though?
Constantine.
Yeah.
We can't have just one person monopolize it. So let me move on to Rosemary, please.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not monopolizing, but if I was on the committee, I wouldn't have to ask these questions, right? We would be in a better position. But yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay,
Rosemary?
I can go. Okay, yes, Marty, this is just in the short period of time, you've done a tremendous amount of work and great information for the community and the committee to see. There were two things you said which just bring a suggestion up in my mind, not to give you more problems, but you talked about a concern about the students from the school and the construction equipment on Oxford Avenue, which is a narrow street, a two-way street and narrow. I know this sounds off the topic, it's not. Everybody on this community board should go to Greystone Avenue up by Bruss Park, where they are doing that construction. It's a two-way street. There is no way to pass there. There's only one lane, and you have to stop with all this equipment There are no flagmen, there's nothing. So my only suggestion is, as Oxford is narrow and there's concern about students, just to consider the possibility of maybe flagmen. It adds a tremendous amount of
He has
safety.
flag men are there now and
Oh.
they will be there. That's
There
done.
you go. Fabulous. Look at that. Thank
That's
you.
done.
There you go.
Let me just
Great.
stop on that point. Tanya, would you get from Rosemary the Greystone Avenue location and send that over to TNT so that they can take a look at the traffic impact there, please?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I'm sorry I interrupted, Marty.
No, no, it's just, it was in my mind, if they're doing it already, look at that. They're smarter
have-
than I am.
they
Can you
have-
imagine
I
that?
think
There you go. Thank
They
you.
have at least 3 on the job already.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Thank you, Marty. Sorry to make
No, not
a
at
suggestion
all.
that's already done. Okay.
Any more? I don't see any hands.
I have a quick question. I'm on the phone.
Name, please.
Josephine Martinez, resident of 525 West 238th. When you say the parking for the trucks will be on West 238th Street, would you just mind dictating the cross streets?
No, let me deal with that if I may, Marty.
Go ahead.
If you focus on where West 238th Street meets Riverdale Avenue, you have on the north side of the street, on the south side of the street, you have the Italian restaurant. And on the north side of the street, you have the following. You have one clean parking space, then you have a hydrant, then you have half a dozen or more parking spaces alongside the school. We're not even talking about half of those. We're talking about maybe the first 3.
And
Okay,
they're all
thank you.
metered parking,
Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
not resident overnight.
right.
The objective is to have the trucks line up so that they're off the street with respect to Riverdale Avenue. And they would be staggered so they wouldn't be all showing up at the same time. That's STAG's responsibility. So there's not a lineup across the borough. And then trucks will be drawn in as needed. But that's for the removal of the rocks. And once that's done, they're done on that side.
Marty, I
All
see
construction of the
Fletcher's
building
hand.
will take place from Oxford.
Marty, Ms. Fletcher has a hand up.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
I just want to clarify which segment of 238 you're talking about. Are you talking about the chunk to the east of Riverdale Avenue or to the west?
Talking about,
East of Riverdale. Okay, so it's not the one in front of 525 West 238. Thank you.
Directly across the street from the current project. Anybody else?
Marty, if you will do the honors of the motion to adjourn, I will entertain it.
I'd be very happy to do that.
Do I hear a
entertain
second?
Second,
Okay. Oh, wait a minute, Bob Bender.
Yes, thank you, Chuck. I did want to bring up some new business. It seems to be widely reported or rumored or whatever word you want to use in North Riverdale that the SAR High School is going to expand onto the former Capital One property on Riverdale Avenue. And first of all, I don't know that this is true, but I've heard it from multiple sources. And I'm wondering, can we talk to somebody from SAR and find out what their plans are for that property that they bought last year?
I have done that. And the answer to the question is, yes, at some point in time, they intend to use the bank building that they purchased for some form of educational purpose. That is not yet clear. And I have been after them as recently as earlier in the last week. and they know I'm going to stay on them on it.
Okay, so we'll get them in once they have some plans for the property.
I think you're looking at two things really: A, plans, and B, money.
Mhm. Okay, well, just as long as, I'm glad you're on top of it, and just as long as we do have a conversation about it before it actually starts. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Is there a second to Marty's motion? Dave?
Just one thing, sorry, Chuck. Do we have the capability of asking SAR to give us a planning document like we did with Horace Mann?
It's not a question of capability. It's a question of whether or not you'll get it in timely fashion. But I take your point, and let me see what I can do.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And I move to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor, contrary minded, the meeting is adjourned with my thanks for your help. Good
Have a
evening.
good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you.